Hello. This is an exercise that will give you some sense of what happens when you use what Alexander called inhibition. So I'll talk you through it, and perhaps you might like to do it with me. So, first of all, you're going to move your arm, presuming your arm hasn't got any problems, and you're going to move it up and down. If doing that is a problem to you, you could always do another exercise such as standing up and sitting down, but I'm going to talk you through the exercise using your arm. So move your arm up and down and notice what is moving it. You don't have to name the muscles, just get a sense of where your arm is moving from. And when I do it, I notice different things, different times, and there's no right or wrong in this. So moving it up and down, I can feel it here. I can actually feel it back here. And I can feel it a little bit in my neck and my back. And where can you feel it? And then what you're going to do is the same thing. But you're going to do it by noticing what happens just before you move. Why do you do that? Well, when we move, our body prepares us to move. It wouldn't be helpful if it didn't. And it wouldn't be helpful if it hadn't already prepared us. So it happens outside of our awareness. You know, if I want to scratch my head, I can, because my arm's already ready to do that movement outside of my awareness. Otherwise, I'd have to say, hello arm, I want to scratch my head please, and it would have to get ready. You know, it doesn't work that way. It's prepared before you move and outside of your awareness, and that's a key thing. So, this second phase of this exercise is moving your arm, but noticing what happens just before you move it. And again, there's no right or wrong. You may notice something, you may not. It really doesn't matter. It's just to begin to focus your awareness on what happens, which is a big part of the technique. It's really getting curious and noticing how you move. So, when I think about moving my arm, I can feel a slight lightness. It's as if it just slightly pulls away from my lap. But do it 2 or 3 times. What happens just before you move your arm? I can feel the back of my arm getting busier. But still move your arm. And what are you noticing just before you move? Not when you move, just before you move. And it doesn't matter if you don't notice anything. The more you do it, the more you will notice those kinds of things. And when you're learning the Alexander technique, it is about noticing those things more and more. So the final phase of the exercise is deciding not to move your arm. And this is what Alexander called inhibition. So I have a stimulus, thought, that I want to move my arm, or it could be a stimulus to stand, but I decide not to move my arm, not to stand. And at that point I have 3 choices. I can move, I can do something else, or I can do nothing. But I'm deciding right now to do nothing. I'm deciding not to move my arm. It's the kind of not moving my arm that means it could rest in my lap all day if I wanted it to. It's the kind of thinking where I could decide to do something else, like tap my toes instead. Or I could notice what's around me. I'm not going to move my arm. And slowly I can get a sense that it's actually in rest mode. And then move your arm. A lot of people tell me after they do this exercise for the first time that the arm moves itself, or it feels lighter, it feels easier, it moves in a more smooth way. And if you don't notice anything first time, that's fine. Again, it's a process, it's a learning process. It's discovering when you change your mind, you decide not to do an activity, what happens to the preparedness of that part of you, or obviously of the whole of you, in fact. And I suggest that you have a practice of this a couple of times and then come back to me with questions. Try it with a different movement, sitting and standing, picking up a cup. See what happens.